Okay, today we're going to be making some square in a square blocks that look like this. And to get started, we're going to have our larger center square and then 4 smaller squares that are going to go in the corners. So on each one of those, we are going to draw a line from corner to corner, a diagonal line, and I'm just using a Frixion pin. And I'm going to do that to the back of each one of these squares. And make sure I get it exactly in the corner. This one's very important that we're right in the corner because we are actually going to be sewing on this line. So a fine tip pin like this Frixion pin is good because you can get it in there and your line is actually right corner to corner. And it's easy to see when we're stitching. So we've got those drawn and we're going to start with 2 corners at a time. We're going to do this side and this side, and we're going to stitch on the lines, and then we're going to come back and do the other 2 sides. So let's go to the sewing machine and get those 2 stitched on. Okay, we're at the sewing machine and we're going to get this aligned. We want this to be exactly in that corner. Okay, and then we're going to stitch on the line corner to corner. Okay, and then I am going to just finger press that back and make sure that it matches. And it's not too bad, I'm okay with that. And then let's go ahead and do the other corner opposite it. And again, line it up exact. And then we're going to sew on that line. I am going to go just a tick to the right of that line because here my line, I can tell it's not exactly in that corner. And so I'll just make up the difference where the line should have been. And then when I flip it back, I don't see any gold parts. It lines up exactly. And that's what we're looking for. So we can go ahead and we're going to go back and trim these off and give them a good press and add our next pieces. Okay, now I'm going to take my ruler and line it up 1/4 inch on that stitching line and then just trim those off, and those will be extra. And flip it and do this corner as well. Okay, and then we're going to give that a really good press. And I'm going to set my seams first and then do a finger roll back. I like to make sure that there's no folds in there. I can feel and just kind of hold it and place my iron on it. And I'm going to do the other side as well. Okay. Okay, and so we've got 2 sides done, and we're going to finish it up by adding the other 2 corners that are left. And so we'll go to the machine, line those up, and we're going to stitch right on that diagonal line again. Okay, I'm going to take one of them off and just have one on there. Okay, I'm going to line these up right exactly in that corner. And then again, I'm going to stitch on the line, and I'm actually going to stitch just to the right of that line. And we'll clip that thread, and I'm just going to do a quick finger press back. And that looks good. I've got my 1/4 inches there. And we're going to add this last one on. And again, it's very important that you have it lined up exactly in the corners. Okay. finger press that. That one looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and trim our block. Okay, again, I'm going to put my 1/4 inch line on the ruler on my stitching line and just trim that off. Whoops. Okay. And that again is in my seam allowance here, so it doesn't have to be exact, but it is easier for me to use a rotary cutter, a rotary cutter and a ruler. Okay, and then we're going to set those seams. And I'm just going to kind of roll it back. Make sure there's no folds in it. Do the same on this side. And then there we have our completed unit. A square and a square, and we'll make a couple different color configurations of those. So happy stitching! On to the churn dash block. This is what our churn dash block is going to look like. And we're going to start constructing with making some half square triangles. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we have all of our pieces here. And on the wrong side of these two, I am going to draw a diagonal line. From corner to corner, and try and be exact if you can. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to match them up right sides together with this yellow piece. And you want to get them lined up best you can all the way around. And then we're going to go ahead to the sewing machine and we're going to do some stitching. Now we're going to take our pieces that we've lined up and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from the drawn line on both sides. And that will give us 2 half square triangles out of 1 piece. Okay, and then I can just kind of pull that thread a little bit and turn that around to come back the other side. And then we'll just go ahead and stick our other one in there and get it all lined up. Flip that one around. Okay, we can clip those 2 apart. I'm going to set those aside, and while we're here, we're going to make a strip set that will become, we will then cut it down and it will become our little side parts of the block. So I've got 2 pieces here, the navy and the white, and I'm going to line them up right sides together, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam along the long edge. Okay, and we have that piece, and we can go back to the ironing board. Okay, I have my strip set, and we're going to go ahead and iron that. I'm just going to heat set that seam. Then I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to kind of finger press, roll that seam, or roll that fabric so that it is going to be pressed towards this darker piece. And then when I get it in place, I'm going to go ahead and press it. And I like to do this just to keep the seam nice and flat. I don't want to have any little folds in there, so by finger pressing it first, I kind of make sure I have the whole piece of fabric going towards the direction I need it to. So, okay, now we can subcut that. And I'm going to take one of my lines on the ruler and line it right up along with that seam line. Then I know I've got a straight cut, and we're going to subcut that into 4 pieces. Okay, a little bit left over that we can toss. Okay, and then on our flying geese, or excuse me, our half square triangles, we're going to cut on that drawn line and separate those. Okay, and then we are going to press those. Okay, and I'm going to put the darker fabric to the top and just do a heat set. And then I'm going to finger press. I'm going to roll that seam and kind of hold it and then press it. Okay. And then do that to all 4. And then these are made a little bit bigger than what we need, so we are going to trim them down. It just helps us to be more accurate. Okay. Okay, and there's lots of ways to trim down the half square triangle. I'm going to go ahead. I have a little block lock that is the size that I need it to be. So I'm going to position that on my square so that I want to take all 4 sides off, because that's going to get rid of these little dog ear flaps. And I will trim all 4 sides. Okay, and then our unit is exactly the size we need it to be. And we can go ahead and trim down all 4. You can also take like a small ruler that is the size of it, making sure that that diagonal line is lined up on top of the seam, keeping it, you know, exactly in the corners where your seam is. And then you could just trim up 2 sides and then maybe trim that little dog ear off. I do like to trim 4 sides. It takes a little bit more time, but then I feel like I have the whole piece all trimmed up and totally okay. It's just a little bit that we're trimming off too, so and just take your time. I should turn my mat there and not cut towards myself. We'll try that on this one. Okay. Position my ruler. And I'm going to do 2 sides there. And then actually I'm just going to scooch that and do 2 sides here. There. Now we've got all of our pieces trimmed. Just a little bit of waste there. And then we can go back to our sewing machine and go ahead and lay out our block and piece it together. Okay, I'm going to just off to the side here arrange my block and get all my pieces lined up. So essentially then it's going to become a 9 patch, and we're just going to sew them together into rows and then join those rows together to make our block complete. Okay, I've got it all laid out, and so I'm going to pick, and I want to do these two, and these 2 joined together. And so we'll do that now, and I'll just pick them up and position them right sides together. And if you like to pin, go ahead and do that. And then I'm just using a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to go all the way down. And the last one. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to clip those apart. And then I'm going to just kind of finger press these I'm going to press these to the outside. This one towards, this is our middle piece, so I'm going to press it towards the center. And I'm just doing a good finger press here. You could take a seam roller or go ahead and press with your iron. And then I'm just going to put it back in the shape that it's supposed to be here and line it up with my last row and go ahead and join those on. So I'll take this top block and position it right sides together. Okay. And we'll just work our way down all 3 rows. And the last one. Okay, and we'll clip those apart, and I'm going to kind of press them the same way. Just do a finger press. That one towards the half square triangles. This one I'm pressing towards the center, and then this towards the half square triangle. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of put it back again. And if I was piecing all of these, I would go ahead and press those at the iron really good before I join them together. But for the sake of filming, I'm just going to go ahead and line them up. And since I press them to one side, then I kind of have it where my seams nest. And so you can pin that. I'm just going to line that up and orient my ends here and attach that. And I just hold it in place where that seam is to go. And that kind of acts as my pin. And stitch all the way down. Okay, looks good. And once we press that, it'll even be better. So then I'm going to go ahead and add this last one. Again, I'm going to kind of nest my seams there. They just fit nicely together. Okay, stitch to that one, then I'll line up my second one. And get this one kind of oriented down here as well. And then that looks pretty good. Let's go press it. We're at the ironing table here, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my hot iron on that seam to kind of set it in place there. And then I am going to just take my fingers again, and I'm going to roll that seam, or roll the fabric so that the seam is all going towards the top there. And then I'm going to press it from the front side and hold that there a little bit. Okay, looks good. And now I'm going to come back and I'm going to heat set this part, roll that seam with my fingers, and then press it good. Okay, that looks pretty good. I know that I can get it to lay a little bit flatter if those last 2 seams where I joined my rows together, I'm going to go ahead and just press those open. And then that just keeps it laying a little bit flatter. And here you could give it a squirt of water and put the clappers on there. And then when you come back after a little bit, just let that heat get absorbed through that wood. And then there's our churn dash block. The final step after we've made our square and square units is to assemble them with our little flying geese sections. And these, we've made lots of them last time, so you should be able to just whip them out, no problem this time. Just pay attention to the way they are oriented within their groups of 3. And then we're going to be placing one flying geese unit inside or between 2 square and a square units. So to do this, then we're going to just line up the edges of the 2 units, right sides together, and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam. Now you can pin this if you want. You can just kind of eyeball it, or just keep it lined up best you can, and then just stitch 1/4 inch. Okay, and we'll just open that one up. Looks good. And then I'm going to add the other one to the opposite side. Same thing, just right sides together. And it doesn't really matter which block you have on top. Just make sure your edges are all matching. Okay, and we'll check this one. And looks good. Now I'm going to go give that a press, and I'm just going to press these to one side. Okay, and then at the ironing station, we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to just put a little heat on that seam to kind of set it. And then I'm going to roll the seam so that it's underneath my square and a square block. Make sure it's nice and flat. And then just give that a press, hold that on there for a little bit. Okay, and then the same with the other side. Give that a little press. Finger roll it out. Make sure it's nice and flat. Give that a little press. And then we have our unit completed. And we should have 4 of those ready to go when we're able to start putting our quilt together. So for now, just set them aside. Thanks a lot.